My name is Bill Crow. I served in the United States Navy 1966 to 1970. I was a photographer's mate second class when I left the military.
My name is Jim Vann, V-A-N-N. I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps 4 years. I was combat engineers. We were in Vietnam from 65 to 66.
Grew up in the military as a dependent of a veteran of World War II, Korea, and 2 tours in Vietnam. In fact, at one point, my father and I were both in Vietnam at the same time, and my mother was heavily medicated. So,
My family background, military. My grandfather was a code talker in World War I. And my father was in the Army. He earned a Silver Star in Korea for, I think there were four or five of them that got captured. Well, the whole unit got captured, but 4 or 5 of them escaped. They were missing for over a month, and we thought maybe he had died. But they survived. So, and my uncle was in the Marine Corps, so I think that's why I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school.
So I joined the Navy in 1966, right out of high school. Obviously, the Vietnam War was building and the demand was high, so I joined the Navy in Denver, Colorado, after having graduated high school in Northeast Montana.
I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I lived in this area all my life prior to going to California for basic training. But that's as far as out of this area I've ever been my whole life. Was there and going overseas.
In March of 1965, 3,500 U.S. Marines arrived in South Vietnam. They were the first American combat troops on the ground in a conflict that had slowly been escalating.
Met a couple buddies down there. We joined together and went to San Diego Naval Center training. From there, I was assigned to the fleet, the USS Canberra, 2 cruises into the Vietnam waters in 67, 68, 69, in what was called Operation Sea Dragon in the Tonkin Gulf.
During the Vietnam War, the U.S. Navy operated off the east coast of North Vietnam in an area called Yankee Station. The body of water where the soldiers were stationed was called the Gulf of Tonkin, and sailors deployed there nicknamed their group the Tonkin Gulf Yacht Club.
We had patches that sailors made up that said Tonkin Gulf Yacht Club because it was battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and aircraft carriers north of the 17th. So our job was to stop the supply of munitions and foods to South Vietnam.
The USS Canberra was deployed to the Vietnam War on 5 occasions between 1965 and 1969. The government and armed forces of South Vietnam were on the verge of collapse. And since American attempts failed to deter the North Vietnamese, the Johnson administration felt that increased efforts were required, which meant operations to include ground troops.
We didn't know what to expect. Everybody's gun-ho, but after a while, you get accustomed to what's going on. You have to be very vigilant because anything could happen at any time. And we lost a few guys, friends of mine and things like that. But I had a couple close calls, but that was just close calls. But it scared the heck out of you. But other than that, I think Vietnam was the most awakening I've ever had.
The Vietnam War claimed the lives of more than 58,000 American service members and wounded more than 150,000. For the men who served in the war and survived, returning to the United States brought about an entirely different type of trauma. Although soldiers of the Vietnam War were excited to be back on American soil, they encountered hostility, were spit on, received the middle finger and insulting remarks, experienced discrimination, found a lack of support readjusting to civilian life, and were often met with disgust or indifference. On top of that, the benefits available for Vietnam veterans were almost non-existent. The soldiers were not necessarily looking for a parade or exuberant fanfare. They were simply looking for basic human support and help after fighting through and surviving such a brutal war.
People really didn't care about us. When we come back from Vietnam, that was even rougher going to Vietnam. Getting fights and stuff because people spitting at you, calling you names. That type of thing. It wasn't very good.
The climate has changed since the veterans returned home from war, and Vietnam veterans are finally receiving the appreciation, recognition, and respect that they deserve. Today, we honor the lost lives and the survivors by helping to keep their stories of the Vietnam War alive.
I moved to Kansas City in 2008. I've never really had traditions on Veterans Day. But when I first moved here, I heard about the Vietnam Veterans Memorial down by the plaza. And I went there that day, and there was a huge ceremony going on. And it was the first time I'd ever heard anyone, excuse me, it's the first time I ever heard anyone welcome us home. And like I'm doing now, I just can't contain my emotions. I looked around, all of us were crying. And it was a commander of something out at Leavenworth, but it was still the first time we'd heard those words. It meant a lot. So every year, I go out to the memorial and spend some quiet moments by myself. No, I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't. No traditions at all. I just kind of, I don't know, over the years, I just kind of tried to forget everything. Right now, I got diagnosed with PTSD, and I'm getting treated for that. Other than that, I don't do anything military, like Veterans Day and stuff like that. No, I don't. I should, but I never have.
So I think that the lesson to be learned is that be grateful for what we have as Americans. Be grateful to those that have helped protect those freedoms, which I think America does really well now, which is so gratifying to see. And find a way to give service to your country that is selfless, rather than the Americans are pretty well known to be self-centered, greedy, and grabbing and instant gratification. But I think in our souls and our fundamental fabric, we care about our fellow citizens and this nation.
Oh, next generation, I'll tell them, get out and vote. We need strong leaders in government, and the only way you can do that is to vote. You need to get some of these people out earlier now. I think they're on the way out anyway, but get out and vote.